Was A Quiet Place inspired by Signs, It Comes at Night, and War for the Planet of the Apes? Was Ready Player One influenced by Avatar, Wreck-It Ralph, and The Last Starfighter? Is The Hurricane Heist more influenced by Sharknado or Geostorm? These are the kinds of questions my guest co-hosts and I discuss on my podcast, Piecing It Together. Every week we look at a new movie and try to figure out what other movies inspired it. Whether it's the story, the character development, tone, or even use of music. Every movie was influenced by something that came before, and we want to figure out what. Check out Piecing It Together on your favorite podcast app or check us out on piecingpod.com. You can also follow us on social media at piecingpod. Piecing It Together is a part of the All Points West podcast network.
Hi, this is James Jokum, host of Webcomics Reviews and Interviews. Today we're sitting down with Perry Edwards of Cold Blooded. So sit back, relax, and let the Geek Fest begin.
Hey, I'm Perry Edwards, mangaka in the making my very own ongoing battle manga, Cold Blooded, that is now live on Kickstarter. Cold Blooded is, like I said before, an ongoing battle manga. This is basically what it's about. A teenager holding out hope after his father's disappearance 5 years ago, Rem Snart discovers latent reptilian abilities brought out by a shadowy figure determined to end his life. And so imagine Eren Yeager, but instead of turning into a Titan, he turns into a 7-foot-tall lizard man, lizard monster. You know, instead of Goku powering up and going Super Saiyan, it's a lizard monster. That's his power up. And so he discovers this ability and takes off from there.
Cool. What kind of fun did you have? Why did you go with that particular type of character, basically a teenager shifting into a reptile?
Well, so the genre is shonen, and so shonen is almost always like it pretty much always is a young teen boy, male protagonist, and because shonen, the boy is kind of the demographic that it's targeted at. And as for that power, it's a character that I thought of during middle school when I drew the design. I really liked it, and I liked the idea of having this. He's a hero, but he's kind of monstrous. And not quite what you would expect of from a hero.
Right. Because it is something you got from middle school. Is there any way it just feels like it's sort of linked to the standard puberty a boy would go through at about that age?
I don't know if it had anything to do with what I was going through at the time, but I mean, I thought of a bunch of characters, and I still have the sketchbooks. And when I get to those characters again, I'll go back to the sketchbook, and some of them I'll probably have to redesign a little bit. And I don't know. That's when I just was very imaginative. I was thinking of things because I'd bring a sketchbook around. I would draw people. I'd draw from life, but then I'd also draw my own characters as well. And I don't know. I might be more hard-pressed to think of things now.
Well, yeah, you definitely have different type of characters you'd make as you get older. It's just different experiences, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be sort of interesting to see what kind of characters you'd come up now that compared to ones you were as a teenager.
Hey, well, I do still think of characters. I don't always draw them, but I'll draw them when I get ready to draw them.
Right. So why the heavy Japanese influence?
I don't know if I would call it heavy, but I like manga. That's like my go-to. That's what I read the most. And some ways I like manga a lot more over American comics, just art-wise and storytelling-wise. American comics tend to have too much text and dialogue, in my opinion, and when I'm reading American comics, more often than not, they feel more like I'm looking at a slideshow or snapshots, right, of a story, what is it called with a Windows Movie Maker? A slideshow. Yeah, it feels more like a slideshow, like I'm viewing someone who took photographs of a story and put it in a comic. Whereas a manga, it's like something fast happens and there's like a motion blur, and it's like you don't really see that in American comics. And a lot of American comics, I see them try to do like speed lines and stuff, but I don't really like how they implement them more often than not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just noticing you're using a lot of Japanese terminology for comics and examples rather than using the American version. For example, if you're doing this more American, you'd be using more of a Hulk thing than you would be using, say, Goku or Aaron.
Right, because that's the audience that I want to target. That would be my ideal reader marketing term. Because like I like the Marvel movies and some of the DC movies, but yeah, I don't read a whole lot of American comics. I read some Batman, and I've been reading the original Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man on Comixology, and so I'm just gonna read that up to whenever it ends, and I really enjoy those.
So I guess the obvious question is, who do you read as far as the manga goes?
Right now, I read Dr. Stone, and I started Samurai 8 by Masashi Kishimoto, but I haven't picked it back up. But yeah, my go-tos is Dr. Stone, The Promised Neverland, what's the other? Well, My Hero Academia. How did I forget that? I started reading Beastars of all things, but I actually like it, and I haven't. I'm a little bit behind on it. And I read One Punch Man. Yeah, that's a big favorite of mine. That I read. Read all the webcomic, and I caught up on it, and I caught up with the manga as well. And I hope they do season 3 justice, because season 2 was not good.
Sort of waiting for season 2 of Promised Neverland and Dr. Stone at this point. So.
Yeah, and I read all of Promised Neverland before the anime came out, or before I watched the anime, and then I watched the season, and I'm caught up on Dr. Stone, but I haven't even seen all of season 1.
Yeah, they just wrapped up the first season on Adult Swim just last Saturday.
Oh, nice.
With, of course, the obligatory season 2 confirmed.
Oh, wow.
So.
That's great.
Just out of curiosity, how much difference is there between the anime and the manga versions of Dr. Stone?
Well, I made it about halfway through, and so far there's not that much difference. There's one difference in Promised Neverland that I noticed that I kind of wish they hadn't gone that route. Is very minor things, like when they talk about him, I don't know what to call him. Cause in the manga and Promised Neverland, when the demons mention him, it's like some like made up like demon language, so you don't even know how it sounds or what it's supposed to sound like. And like, I don't know if this is a subtitle thing, if maybe they did do it in the sub, but then the subtitles like, oh, well, we don't know what to do for this. It just said, they just called him, and I'm like, oh, that's so like, want them to have that like Cthulhu sounding name, like, to me that's a lot more threatening.
Right. So it comes down to, what kind of anime do you tend to, what kind of manga do you usually tend to read when you're trying to get inspired to actually write?
Honestly, every manga I read inspires me more or less. And I don't necessarily have to read to get inspired, but whenever I read or watch something, I get into it. I feel really inspired. I watch One Piece weekly, and then I watch One Piece, gets me fired up. I remember watching part 5 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. It gets me fired up. It's like, battle manga shonen gets me fired up in general, because it's always the protagonist on this journey where they continually get stronger, or they better themselves. So there's like this theme of self-improvement, and I like to think of myself as like a shonen protagonist in my own life, always like getting better, working harder, and till I reach that moment where I reap the rewards of my hard work.
Right. What else have you done? And just out of curiosity, why the name change?
Yeah, so I named it originally Transformer because I thought, well, he transforms, and transformation is like a trope a lot of heroes do in manga. So I'll just call it that. And I knew it's only one letter away from Transformers. And so I thought I had to have a name from the get-go. And I've watched videos since then from creators, and they say that, I watched a video by Wyatt Manga on YouTube, and he said that you don't have to have a name from the get-go, and that he would recommend, writing a few chapters before deciding on a name. And I totally did not do that. I thought I had to have the name from the get-go, and I didn't deliberate on it very long. And that's a problem. I just kind of settled on it, and I do have a difficulty coming up with names. And so I thought I wanted to print them. That's another reason why I came up with the name. And so I printed them. I took them to cons and stuff. And I had, fears and doubts about the name because it's like, I don't know if that's really a good name. And so I enrolled in the comics launch course to learn how to use Kickstarter and market myself and all that good stuff. And there was at some point where Tyler James, there is a comics launcher to, pitch my log line or my sales pitch 3 different ways. And so I pitched it 3 different ways on Twitter, and I tagged Tyler James in it. And, he uses Twitter a lot, and he responded, and he ended up DMing me. But before that, he replied, and he gave me a really good log line, which is the log line that I said at the beginning of the show that I'm quite proud of. That wasn't the log line or sales pitch I had come up with at cons. And so, and he said that the name Transformer reminded him of a certain robots in disguise. And then he DM'd me after that, and he said that it might create a ceiling of how popular it gets because it might confuse people. And I even remember it doesn't help that on my first issue there's a robot on the cover and it says Transformer. And I remember at cons when people read the name, even though it doesn't have an S, they might still say Transformers. Or there's I overheard some kid from across the aisle at a con. He said, Lizard Man is my favorite Transformer, judging by my issue 3 cover. So it's like, thinking back to that, I need to change it. And, so coming up with another name, that's a whole challenge in of itself. And so I took to the, private Facebook group in Comics Launch and some other, areas in social media. And I asked for feedback on an alternative name. And someone said Cold Blooded, and that really resonated with me. And so, after weighing my options a bit more, I went with Cold Blooded. I got together with my graphic designer friend, Sergio Gallegos. He's really good if you need him for logos. And, I worked with him to make this logo. And after about 5 days or so, I think we finally had it. And I went and I replaced the old logo with the new one, and it just felt like perfect. Like everything fell into place. It felt so much more professional with the new name and this new logo. Cause before with the old logo, it was one that I made myself and I didn't even make it in Illustrator. I just drew it. It was a PNG, and this one, like, it felt like so finished, and I can't wait to go to a con with the new name with some new books printed. And I don't want the old names to just go to waste, which is why I've included them in one of my pledges on the Newt, where you get the PDF plus three of the variant covers of issues 1 through 3. And so, yeah, that was my long-winded story on that, on the name change. And I just need to get ideas and bounce feedback off of people, which I should have done from the beginning, instead of just having to figure out everything myself.
It all depends on the person's approach. Some people prefer to dive in and see what happens. In other words, try to basically do all the studying beforehand. It all depends on what you feel comfortable with.
Right. Well, I guess maybe I'm rushing things, but like I want to get things out there as fast as soon as I can. And, cause I'm trying to build an audience, and I'm not trying to build it in like 10 years, I'm trying to like get something going in like a year or two tops, trying to accelerate that process.
Any particular reason why you chose a reptile as the alternative form?
I think reptiles are cool, and I always like turtles. There are certain animals I'm fascinated with, and his design is somewhat inspired by like Sonic the Hedgehog, because my character, he's like blue and green, and I think when I was a kid, I didn't really play Sonic games, but I watched like Sonic X, the anime, and I think it may have had some of me influencing to come up with the idea for this character.
Okay. You did a workshop at the Henderson County Library. I was very curious about that.
Is that okay? You found that. That was in
The Comic-Con at Texas Henderson County Library?
In Athens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it changed venues, so it wasn't at the library, it was at some other place. It ended up being, but they probably didn't change it on what you're looking at. Yeah, I went to this con, and it was their first annual con, and I made a little PowerPoint, and I presented it to some people and some cosplayers that showed up, but yeah, it didn't really go all that great, to be honest. But and I don't know. I have done a Q&A at another con, and that was more fun. I'd like to do more of that than a workshop.
All right, so because we tend to learn a little bit more from mistakes and we actually doing it right sometimes, why do you say the workshop didn't go so well?
Oh, 'cause so the way the venue was, they have like a balcony, and you go up the stairs, and that's where it would be at. And I just brought my laptop with me, and I was doing like the PowerPoint off my laptop. And this is like the first annual con, and I think it was kind of like, I think people were kind of misled about what my workshop was about. And, cause I just kind of talked about, manga in general, and a little bit about my own manga. And I think some of the cosplayers that came up, like they didn't really care. They weren't really listening all that much. And cause it's not in a private room. It's in an open space just on a balcony. So it's kind of like a lot of crowd. You can hear the crowd downstairs, and there's a lot of noise. And so I felt like I had to yell, but, or speak kind of loud, just so they could hear me. And so it wasn't like a lot of people listening to me, and plus they weren't really paying that much attention to begin with, so that's why it wasn't that great. Whereas the Q&A I did at this other con, it was like in a room, and it was quiet, and there was a few people, but at least like they were paying attention, and it was just a lot better environment.
Yeah, it sounds like the one convention nobody was really focused in on the comics, and they were more focused on the cosplay, whereas the other one was more focused on what you were actually trying to say.
Yeah.
So if anything besides...
I'd say that...
Go ahead.
Anything besides what? Oh yeah, I mean, I would say that's about right. I was gonna say that's about right.
Okay. Have you done anything else besides Cold Blooded?
Yeah, I did. I made one other comic called Undecided, and it's on Webtoons under my name. And it was technically the second comic I made because I made Cold Blooded first, and then I made this other comic, and then I went back to making more Cold Blooded. But when I made this comic, this manga Undecided, because I think I was intending to enter in a contest, so I did it from left to right instead of right to left. Wait, is that right? Yeah, and but I don't think I made it in time, so I didn't end up entering it. But I don't really like the art I made in it. I like the story I came up with and some of the panels, but I didn't really like the art because I drew it digitally in what is it called Medi Medibang Paint Pro, I think. I made it in there, and yeah, I didn't like it. I should have drawn it traditionally. The art came out looking kind of wonky, but I think that's when I started finding more of my style with that one. I started beginning and nailing down my style more.
Yeah, you're definitely doing a manga thing as far as the art style goes. A little bit simplistic, lack of backgrounds, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, so like a lot of manga, depending on the caliber of the manga artist too, and the popularity of manga and how many assistants, uh, a lot of manga they tend to strive to have photorealistic backgrounds, and sometimes I wonder if they straight up like use photographs, but it's so hard to tell. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to draw that, or let alone convert a photograph. And I don't know if my pride as an artist would want me to allow myself to draw or just use a photograph straight up. But I don't know if I can figure out how to do it and it saves me all the time, I might do it. But yeah, I do think in manga they do you can get away with dropping out backgrounds more. And because I'm doing it all myself, I think I have more of an out. But I try to include more backgrounds the longer I work on it. Just because like the setting is important. The setting is almost a character itself, and so it needs to be represented.
First off, just because I'm a nice guy, the obvious Photoshop tip of the day is to take the picture, convert it to black and white, and then go with the drawing type, one of the drawing filters in Photoshop itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not really all that hard to do when it comes down to it. It's just a couple of steps.
All right. Now the real question is if that's what manga artists do, or if they just trace it. I wonder if they just trace photographs, but I don't know. If you use a photograph like that, it make more like why wouldn't you just turn it black and white and do that drawing filter? So, but I don't know. It might be too drawing with my art because so like reading in Dr. Stone, sometimes the art's really good, but sometimes it looks like they use a photograph or a photograph in conjunction, like part of the background is drawn and part of it's photograph. And to me, it's like really jarring. And in other manga, I haven't really experienced this, but it kind of bothers me in Dr. Stone.
Yeah, it's what you call a bad matte drawing when it comes down to it. The background, of course, being the matte, and occasionally they'll throw in something that doesn't quite work, but they think it does. You see it a lot in the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Oh.
So sometimes it works, usually not so much.
Yeah, so, and when I think of like, it's more like current manga artists that do that. But when I've read Dragon Ball and most of Dragon Ball Z up to the Cell Saga, and Kira Toriyama, he draws all his backgrounds, even if they're just deserts. He draws them, and I don't see photographs. It seems like an older manga. I don't. So maybe I should just steer clear of photographs altogether.
Like you said, it's ultimately a style thing more than anything else. Some manga do it, some don't. Some actually do draw out the pictures. Some of them, there actually are a couple of techniques that will actually allow you to do a reasonably photographic variation or make it look actually photorealistic when it's really not. So it depends on the style and what the person's trying to convey. Plus, keep in mind that manga isn't exactly something they're trying to take their time doing and do it right 9 times out of 10.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they got a week to do 15 or 20 pages, and they're trying to crap those out. Try and get them out as fast as they can.
So, and I have seen some variations where one person will do, for example, will actually use an actual photograph, throw it through the filter, and use that as basically a set piece to establish where everything is, and then the rest of it is pretty much just straight drawing.
Just characters? or drawing. Yeah, drawing backgrounds.
Yeah, sometimes they'll just simply draw the backgrounds because it's a lot easier. But like you said, it all depends on the manga and the artist and what they're trying to convey.
I might have to try that sometime, see how it works out.
So sometimes there are some interesting ways to cheat on it, but you have to really know what you're doing to pull off the cheating, and I'm not sure how much time they actually have to play around with cheats and that sort of thing. So
right, they just do it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Well, I know a lot of times, even when manga artists say rush art and it comes out all sloppy, they usually clean it up later for the tankobon, which I'm considering redrawing like a few pages from my chapter 1, before I print the book or send out the PDF.
So, yeah, definitely debate, but really debate not doing it. I know it sounds sort of weird, but especially if you get through all the really bad art, at least the stuff that you consider the bad art in the first book, and then it gets better, you'll find actually the customers like it a little bit more.
Oh, really? So I should just leave it.
The idea is they like to see that the artist progresses in terms of skill and talent as far as in terms of later books. So they like to see the progression is basically what I'm trying to say here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was thinking about that too. I was thinking, well, what if I left it and just leave it as it is, and it's like as a testament to how far I've come. And all I was thinking was maybe like there's certain like 3 or 4 pages I was thinking about redrawing, but now you say that it's now it's persuading me more the other way, and then it'd be less work too because then I don't have to do anything.
Right. Now, on the other hand, you had some really bad art in the later books. That would be an entirely different problem. But
Oh, right.
It's just straight up. The reader's going to be a little bit more lenient in the first issue or two, and after that, they're going to start wanting to see things tighten up a little bit.
Well, that's nice to know.
So, at least that's what a lot of webcomic artists would tell you.
Huh.
So, but then again, art's entirely different art than writing is. Go figure. So, I guess going back to an earlier question, sort of, what kind of themes are you trying to cover in Cold Blooded?
Yes, the major theme in this would be death and how the main character deals with that. Because there's a traumatic event that happens, and I want this first arc to kind of set the precedent for the series. And will play out. It will be kind of like his origin and how this will shape his character and his convictions, and there's what he'll come to be as, and also just like the right thing to do.
Cool. You do know that the card of death in the tarot is actually represents change more than it does actual death, right?
Is that, no, I don't know.
No, I'm telling you, that sort of adds a little bit to the concept you got. Basically, you got this character who's trying to deal with concepts of death and all that.
Uh-huh.
And like you said, part of the Death card in tarot, part of its meaning isn't so much a finality so much as it is a transformation to a different state.
Oh, cool.
Just thought that keyed in with your comic rather nicely in that regard.
Yeah, that might work to my advantage.
So besides obviously the obvious changing himself, what other kind of deaths does the character deal with?
I'm trying to think.
Basically, how's he deal with the death problem?
How he deals with it. Well, so the end of this arc, he'll be coming down with it. It more gets dealt with, if with when there would be a second book. Well, so what happens is he blames himself for the death. It's kind of like this guilt thing, where say Peter Parker blames himself for Ben dying, and so he vows this thing. It's kind of like that. It's like some characters die, and then he blames himself because he couldn't stop it. Although he did try and did everything he could, and so in that sense, he shouldn't really feel all that guilty, but he does anyway. Most of all because, a spoiler, the bad guy gets away, and he doesn't kill him. He has a chance to kill him, and he doesn't. And so he thinks, well, if I ever have the chance again, I'm not, I'm going to kill, to save the life of another. That's where it's basically going with this first arc.
Okay. I presume this is, of course, going to lead into the next book as far as some of the stuff he has to continually deal with.
Yeah.
And as far as the convictions goes, it's basically establishing the kind of convictions he's going to be dealing with in terms of not just his life in general, but also what kind of convictions he's setting up for himself in life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly it.
Okay. So, why did you decide to go with a Kickstarter rather than print on demand?
Well, Kickstarter is like an event, and it's a way to drive traffic and eyes to your project that you otherwise wouldn't get. Whereas print on demand, there is no event. It's just kind of there, and then you have to promote it and drive people to it. With Kickstarter, you have a campaign, and it lasts so long, 30 days or whatever. And so just like a politician, you're campaigning, trying to get votes, right? But here I'm trying to get people, trying to convince them to pledge for my project. And most people are either doors open or doors closed. And maybe right when something opens, they'll go and pledge for it. Or right before doors close, they go and pledge or purchase it. And it kind of forces a decision in a way, because you can't afford to be indecisive with it, because once a Kickstarter is over, it's over. It's too late to go back and do anything. They might buy a book from me afterwards if it's successful, but it's too late to participate in the Kickstarter. And so I like that aspect of it.
Okay, and I love specific numbers because specific goals are much easier to attain than more general ones. But why exactly $831?
So that will cover the print costs, packaging, and shipping. And the way I calculate it is if I printed 100 books of the Tango Bond, that would be the cost to print it and ship it and the package and ship it. And I think I factored in also the cost of, cause I'd have to print issues, 5 through 8. And, I think I factored those in as well. And that's how I got that number.
Okay. So basically go through the various tiers real quick.
All right. There's the Gecko. You pledge $7 and you get the PDF of Cold Blood Volume 1. And then at $10, which I revealed when I reached 30% funded, you can get the PDF plus 3 variant covers of issues 1 through 3. And then the next one is the Horny Toad. And at $15, you can get the PDF with the variants and the physical book. And then at $29, the Gila Monster, I think. You can get all that plus a poster of your choice. And so there's a cover for each chapter. And so it would be oh no, my bad. I named that pledge Bearded Dragon. I just checked it. But yeah, you would, it'd be a signed poster of your choice between the 8 chapters. And then Komodo Dragon, the biggest pledge, is $79. And for that, you get all that plus the 8 single issues of Cold Blood Volume 1 and issues 1 through 4, the special edition with the old name and the old logo. And those are limited because I only have, so many copies of those.
So far, it looks like your Horny Toad's doing pretty well as far as the actual backers go.
Yeah, that's good. Considering it's the core pledge, you kind of want that to. You can't always control what your core pledge is. Your core pledge is like your most popular one, technically, but it's kind of like this. What the pinnacle of the Kickstarter is supposed to be is the book. So,
right. And how are you basically getting people into the campaign? What is your marketing plan?
So I have a email list, and I've been priming my email list and sending them out. I've done Facebook ads, and if anything, I post on social media about it as well. Like I'll post art, it doesn't necessarily have to be related to my series, but usually like I'll get pages done, I'll post it, and I'll be like, there's link in bio to back. And if anything, I can personally message people in my life, be like, hey, my Kickstarter's live. And, that helps too.
So basically, you're just doing a pretty much social media email campaign with the occasional Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds cool. So far, it looks like you said, not a bad start. I mean, you're only about, 2 weeks in, about a week in?
Yeah, it's, today's like the 8th day, I think. Yeah, it is. Yeah, today would be the 8th day. So, that's good.
And you're already past the 30% mark, so that's not bad.
Yeah, cause, I go reach 30% on like the 3rd day. And, when you reach 30%, you have like a 80% chance of successfully funding.
Cool. And on an entirely different related note, how's the YouTube channel going?
My YouTube channel is going alright, I guess. I got a surge in subscribers, this past year, and I was able to monetize. I was making some money, but it's just kind of weird because my audience was mostly people from other countries. And so, I don't know, like, the YouTube algorithm just recommended it to me. That's pretty much, made a whole bunch of videos where I was just drawing, models off of Croquis Cafe YouTube channel that provides references for artists. And, I've uploaded, some different content since then, not as popular. I noticed, like, since the whole Copa thing, some of my videos get like the limited ads. I don't know if that's because of that or not. And I'll just request a review, and they'll say, "Oh, okay, well this is good for all advertisers," or say, "Oh, this is a."
Yeah, a lot of people are having the COPA problem. I mean, sometimes they just can't figure out exactly how to difference between the all ages group versus a little bit older crowd.
Right. I just mark like not for kids because even though some of my videos like kids could watch and it would be fine, but I'm not really intending it for them.
So, but yeah, it looks like you got some interesting stuff, especially some Inktober stuff.
Yeah, and those did like those didn't do as well as my February videos, but they seem to catch up after a few days or so, and they did all right.
All right, I know what Inktober is. What's February?
Oh, so February was the thing that's what helped blow up my channel. The Croquis Cafe on YouTube, they uploaded a video of a model every day for the month of February, and so I would record myself drawing from the video, and I did that for February of last year. It was a whole bunch of videos.
So, man, apparently you're doing some this year.
Oh, I didn't do any this year.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No.
So, you also got some, like I said, you've also got some stuff on how to do things, like the Let's Draw, basically.
Oh yeah. Those are old. I did those like a long time ago, but I did upload some recent ones. It was just kind of took from my February videos.
So, so basically, you've been doing a lot of stuff besides just writing a comic book.
Yeah. Although when I really started focusing on the comic, I kind of focused less on YouTube. Although there's more content I'd like to make for it, but it's just difficult because editing takes time.
Just out of curiosity, how long does it take to edit a YouTube video for you?
That's hard to say because I never really time myself. It's not so much. It's like finding the time to sit down and make myself do it is more difficult because I know, but at least a couple hours, I think. Um, depending depending on how long the video is, because then you have to watch and rewatch, um, so many times just to edit it down the way you want. And the longer the video, the longer it's going to take to edit. Probably the more footage you have.
Right. All right. So I guess we'll start closing up. Anything else you'd like to talk about?
My Kickstarter ends on March 18th. That's the deadline. You can find me on social media. If you search Perry's Hotter, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, all that good stuff. And it may be spelled slightly different. Like Twitter is Peary, and then some of them may have an underscore, but you should be able to find it.
Okay. Yeah, on YouTube, for example, you're Perry Hodder, so.
Yeah, and also I'm also Perry's Hotter on Webtoon and Tapas, but you can also just type in Cold Blood and find my series and follow me on there as well.
All right. Any specific things you'd like to? I mean, obviously, you wanted to plug the Kickstarter. Anything else you'd like to plug?
No, that's it. I'm all good.
right, and that should basically close this out. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thank you. You too. Okay.
Just real quick, it'll probably take me, basically one way or another, I should have this up and going by the end of the week. And I'll make sure you have a link for it.
Okay.
Plus, like I said, I should be able to give you a transcript of this as well, even though it'll be probably heavily edited.
Okay.
So, but that'll take care of a lot of the ums, the ahs, and a lot of breaks and that sort of thing. So, don't sweat it.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, again, thanks for coming on, and I'll talk to you later.
All right. Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
For those interested in supporting this podcast, please check us out over at patreon.com/twosparrows. We have mini-casts, a few extra tips and tricks here and there, an edited version of interviews that include all the swearing as well as a little bit longer, as well as an actual episode of this podcast that has yet to be aired anywhere else. Also check us out over at YouTube, where we have curated playlists where all the various podcasts have been broken down into various different types of sections, such as world building, business, marketing, writing, etc., as well as additional mini-casts, as well as the Alexa briefs. And definitely check us out over on Facebook. This allows you not only to comment on the various videos, but also catch up on a few other things as well.